Hi, this is Sue Perez, and this is the Elenath scarf. The Elenath scarf features two types of star stitch, yarn over slip stitch accent rows, and a double edging with yarn over slip stitch and corded HDC. It's very thick and squishy and cozy. Let's get started. To start your Elenath scarf, loosely chain 17. Turn the chain so that the back bumps are facing you, starting in the second chain from the hook, yarn over slip stitch in the next 15 chains. To make a yarn over slip stitch, yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through both the loops on the hook. Another way to do it is to yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, and pull through all the loops at once. When you're making the yarn over slip stitch, you want to make sure that your yarn over is snug on the hook and tight against the working loop. When you have one empty chain remaining, slip stitch into the back bump of the last chain. This is our row 1 from the wrong side and from the right side. To start row 2, we're going to make a special turning chain. Insert your hook into the front loop of the stitch you just made, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops on hook. Insert your hook into the nearer of the two loops that are sitting on the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops on the hook. Insert your hook into the farther of the two loops that are sitting on the working yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both the loops on the hook. This is our special turning chain. Turn your work clockwise. If you're a left-handed crocheter, you need to turn counterclockwise. Now we're ready to start row 2. Yarn over, insert your hook into the back loop of the stitch that the special turning chain comes out of, and pull up a very tall loop, as tall as the turning chain. Insert your hook into the back loop of the next stitch, pull up another tall loop. Do this 2 more times so that you have pulled up 4 tall loops, and you should have 6 loops on your hook. To complete the tall star, hold the yarn at the base of the loops with your finger and your thumb, yarn over, and pull through all the loops on the hook. Now remove your finger, but keep that tall loop open at the side. Insert your hook into that side loop, chain 1, and chain 1 more, and your first tall star is complete. To make the next tall star, yarn over, insert your hook into the same back loop that you just used for the previous star, pull up a very tall loop, make sure it's as tall as your turning chain. Now insert your hook into the next back loop, pull up a tall loop, and do this 2 more times so that you have pulled up 4 tall loops. To complete the star, grasp the yarn at the side, yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook. Insert your hook into the side loop, chain 1, and chain 1 more. Continue in this way all the way across the row. And don't forget, each star starts in the same stitch used at the end of the previous star. The final star of row 2 should end in the last stitch of the row below. To finish the last star of this row, yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook, chain 1 into the side loop and stop there. That's the end of the final star. To finish the row, yarn over, insert your hook into the back loop that you just used at the end of the star and into the back loop below it on the wrong side, and make a double crochet. And this is our finished row 2. To start row 3, chain 1, turn the work clockwise, working into the back loops of each stitch across, yarn over slip stitch into the next 15 stitches. To complete the row, insert your hook from bottom to top up through the 2 loops at the top of the wrong side of the special turning chain and make a slip stitch. That is our completed row 3 from the wrong side and from the right side. To start row 4, make another special turning chain just as you did at the beginning of row 2. Turn the work part way so that you can look down at the side of the turning chain. We're going to start working our regular star row by inserting the hook into this loop and that loop. So I'm going to call this the middle back loop and the bottom back loop. Yarn over, insert your hook into the middle back loop, pull up a generous loop, insert your hook into the bottom back loop, pull up a generous loop. Now finish turning your work, skip the stitch that the special turning chain comes out of, insert your hook into the back loop of the next stitch, pull up a loop, and do that twice more. Insert your hook into the back stitch of the next loop, pull up a loop, and the back stitch of the next loop. So on each of the regular stars, you're going to pull up 5 loops, and with the loop on the hook and the yarn over, you should have 7 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook, chain 1 to complete the star. Remember to keep your tension relaxed so that you can work into this star when you go to make the next star. To make the next star, yarn over, insert your hook into the eyelet of the star you just completed, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the farthest back leg of the star, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the back loop of the stitch below, the same back loop you just used when finishing your previous star, pull up a loop, and insert your hook into the next back loop, pull up a loop, and once more, the next back loop, pull up a loop. You should have 7 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook, chain 1 to complete the star. Continue in this way across the row, and remember that each new star shares a stitch with the star that came before it. And when you reach the end of the row, your final star should end in the last stitch of the row below. Chain 1 to complete the last star, and double crochet in the back loop and the back loop below the yarn over slip stitch row. This is our row 4 complete. Row 5 is a repeat of row 3, chain 1, turn the work clockwise, and yarn over slip stitch in the next 15 stitches, working into the back loops only. Be careful that you don't miss any of the chain 1 stitches from the star stitch row. They can be small and hard to see. When you've worked 15 yarn over slip stitches, finish with a regular slip stitch into the 2 loops at the top of the special turning chain. And that is our completed row 5 from the wrong side and from the right side. Repeat rows 2, 3, 4, and 5 until your scarf is the desired length. When your scarf is as long as you like, chain 1, turn clockwise, and slip stitch with relaxed tension into the back loop of each stitch across. At the end of this row, slip stitch into the back loop only. Before starting your edging, if you like, you can switch to a smaller hook. This will make it easier to work into the sides of the stitches. Chain 1, rotate the work sideways, place a marker in the chain 1. Now insert your hook right through the middle of the end of the yarn over slip stitch row and make a slip stitch. Yarn over slip stitch under 2 loops of the middle of the double crochet, yarn over slip stitch under 2 loops of the bottom part of the double crochet. So all the way down the side of the scarf, you're going to be working a yarn over slip stitch into the row end of the yarn over slip stitch row, another stitch into the middle of the double crochet, and another stitch into the bottom of the double crochet. And again, we're working yarn over slip stitches all the way around. If you have trouble getting your hook through the end of the row, you can always do as I did and use the lip of the hook as an aid. Whenever you're working and edging into crochet, it's always a good thing to work into at least 2 loops. It just gives a better appearance. When you reach the corner of the scarf, make a yarn over slip stitch into the end of the slip stitch row. Rotate the work sideways. Now we're going to start working into the back loops all the way across. Yarn over slip stitch into each back loop across. When you reach the next corner, rotate the work sideways, yarn over slip stitch into the end of the slip stitch row, yarn over slip stitch under the double strands in the middle of the special turning chain, and yarn over slip stitch into the next double strands at the top of the turning chain. So working up this side of the scarf, you're going to be working a yarn over slip stitch into the slip stitch row end, into the double loops in the middle of the turning chain, and the double loops at the top of the turning chain, all the way up the long side of the scarf. So you've probably figured out by now that each 2 rows of the scarf get 3 edging stitches. When you reach the next corner, make a yarn over slip stitch into the end of that slip stitch row, turn the work, and now make a yarn over slip stitch into the back loops of each slip stitch across. If you're wondering why we don't make extra stitches in the corner, It's because the yarn over slip stitch rolls to the front of the work and sits right on top of the front, so you don't need to have any extra stitches going around the corner. When you reach the end of the row, make your last yarn over slip stitch in the stitch before the marked chain 1. Make sure you do not stitch into the marked chain 1. Remove the marker, and now we're going to make a long loop join. Pull out a long loop, skip the chain 1, skip the slip stitch, insert your hook into the top loops of the first yarn over slip stitch of this round, pull the loop all the way through. Now insert your hook up through the back loop and the back bar of the originating yarn over slip stitch, pull the loop down and through. That is our long loop join, and the loop that you've pulled through becomes the new working loop. For the final round of corded HDC, make a half double crochet in the back loop of the slip stitch, which is sitting just below the long loop join. To start the corded half double crochet, insert your hook into the front loop and front bar of the HDC you just made, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the back bar of the next yarn over slip stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all the loops on the hook. Insert your hook into the front loop and the front bar, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next back bar of the yarn over slip stitch below, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both the loops on the hook. Continue in this way all the way around, making one corded half double crochet in the back bar of each yarn over slip stitch around. You don't need to work any extra stitches around the corners because the corded half double crochet is a little bit wider than an ordinary half double crochet, and it's also very flexible, so it will give you a nice rounded corner without any extra stitches. When you've worked a corded half double crochet in each yarn over slip stitch all the way around, cut the yarn, leaving a 6-inch tail. Gently pull the yarn tail up and out of the stitch without distorting the stitch. Insert your hook through the top loops of the first corded half double crochet. You want to skip over the starting half double crochet. Pull the yarn tail all the way through from the right side to the wrong side. Insert the hook up through the back bar and the back loop of the originating corded half double crochet. Pull the yarn tail all the way through. This is our invisible join, and we'll finish our join by turning the work over, looking at the wrong side. You want to insert your hook through the next horizontal bar, one stitch over to the right, and pull that yarn tail down through the horizontal bar. Adjust your join to match the other stitches in size. And here is our miniature sample of the Elenath scarf. I'm Sue Perez, also known as Mrs. Macabre. Thanks for viewing, and happy crocheting.